Have you ever wondered what it was like to wake up in the first century? No smartphones, no cars, no electricity, just the rhythm of the sun, the sounds of the marketplace, and the traditions of ancient civilizations. Today, we're traveling back nearly 2,000 years to explore daily life in the first century. From the Roman Empire to ancient China, from bustling cities to quiet villages, let's discover how people lived, worked, and dreamed in a world both familiar and strange. Imagine the sun rising over a Roman city, a Judean village, or a Han Dynasty town. Most people in the first century woke up at dawn, their day dictated by the natural light. There were no alarm clocks, just the crowing of roosters, the sounds of animals, or the call to prayer in some communities. Homes were simple. In the Roman Empire, the wealthy lived in spacious villas with courtyards, while the poor crowded into small apartments called insulae. In rural areas, families lived in mud, brick or stone houses, often sharing space with their animals. In China, wooden houses with tiled roofs lined the streets of growing cities, while farmers lived in humble cottages. Beds were basic, straw mattresses or woven mats. People slept close together for warmth, especially in colder regions. Privacy was rare, and most families shared a single room. Breakfast was a simple affair. In Rome, a typical morning meal might be bread dipped in wine, olives, or cheese. In Judea, people ate flatbread with olive oil or dates. In China, rice porridge or steamed buns were common. There was no running water in most homes. People fetched water from public fountains, wells, or rivers. Washing was done with cold water, and soap as we know it was rare. People used sand, ash, or oil to clean themselves. Children helped with chores from a young age, fetching water, sweeping floors, or tending animals. For most, there was no school to rush off to. Education was a privilege for the wealthy or those in religious communities. The majority of people in the first century were farmers. They worked from sunrise to sunset, planting, weeding, and harvesting crops like wheat, barley, rice, or millet. In the Roman Empire, large estates called latifundia were worked by slaves or tenant farmers, while smallholders struggled to make ends meet. In cities, craftsmen and artisans were busy at their trades: potters, blacksmiths, weavers, and carpenters. Markets bustled with activity as merchants sold everything from fresh produce to spices, cloth, and pottery. Women's work was never done. They managed the household, cooked, cleaned, spun wool, and cared for children. In some cultures, women could own businesses or property, but in many places their roles were limited by tradition. Slavery was a harsh reality. In Rome, slaves made up a significant part of the population, working in homes, fields, mines, and even as teachers or doctors. In China and India, there were also systems of servitude, though the details varied. Food was central to daily life, but what you ate depended on your status and where you lived. The poor ate simple meals: grains, beans, vegetables, and occasionally fish or meat. The wealthy enjoyed elaborate feasts with multiple courses, exotic spices, and imported delicacies. In Rome, lunch was a light meal, often bread, cheese, and fruit. The main meal, called cena, was eaten in the late afternoon or evening. Wealthy Romans reclined on couches, while the poor sat on stools or the floor. In China, rice or millet was the staple, accompanied by vegetables, tofu, and sometimes pork or fish. Tea was becoming popular, though it wouldn't become widespread until later centuries. In Judea and the Middle East, meals centered around bread, lentils, olives, and dates. Wine was common, but often diluted with water. Street food was popular in cities. Vendors sold hot bread, stews, or grilled meats to busy workers. Eating out was common for those who couldn't cook at home, especially in crowded urban areas. Family was the heart of society. Extended families often lived together, with grandparents, parents, children, and sometimes cousins under one roof. Respect for elders was a core value, especially in China, where Confucian teachings shaped family life. Children played with simple toys, dolls, balls, or carved animals. Games like knucklebones, dice, and board games were popular across cultures. Marriage was usually arranged by families, often for economic or social reasons. Weddings were important community events, marked by feasting, music, and rituals. Social life revolved around religious festivals, markets, and public events. In Rome, people flocked to the baths, theaters, and amphitheaters for entertainment. In Judea, the Sabbath was a day of rest and worship. In China, festivals like the Lantern Festival brought communities together. Religion was woven into every aspect of life. In the Roman Empire, people worshipped a pantheon of gods and goddesses, making offerings at temples and household shrines. Emperors were often deified, and public festivals honored the gods. In Judea, Judaism was central to daily life. The temple in Jerusalem was the heart of religious practice, and synagogues served as community centers. The first century was a time of great religious ferment, with new movements like Christianity beginning to emerge. In China, Confucianism, Taoism, and folk religions shaped beliefs and rituals. Ancestor worship was common, and families honored their ancestors with offerings and ceremonies. Religion provided comfort, community, and a sense of order in a world full of uncertainty. Staying healthy was a daily challenge. Disease was common, and medical knowledge was limited. In Rome, doctors used herbs, surgery, and prayers to treat illness. Public baths helped with hygiene, but also spread disease. In China, traditional medicine relied on herbs, acupuncture, and balancing the body's energies. In India, Ayurveda was already a well-developed system of healing. Childbirth was dangerous, and many children did not survive to adulthood. Life expectancy was low. Most people lived into their 30s or 40s if they were lucky. Despite the hardships, people found ways to enjoy life. In Rome, the Colosseum hosted gladiator games, chariot races, and theatrical performances. Public baths were places to relax, socialize, and do business. Music and dance were part of every culture. People played flutes, drums, lyres, and other instruments. Storytelling, poetry, and drama entertained both rich and poor. Festivals marked the changing seasons, religious holidays, and important events. These were times of joy, feasting, and community spirit. As the sun set, families gathered for the evening meal. Oil lamps or candles provided dim light. People told stories, sang songs, or simply rested after a long day. Night brought dangers, thieves, wild animals, or fires in crowded cities. Most people went to bed early, ready to rise with the sun and begin again. Life in the first century was a mix of hard work, simple pleasures, and deep connections to family, faith, and community. While the world has changed in countless ways, the hopes and dreams of people back then are not so different from our own. So next time you wake up to your alarm clock, grab a quick breakfast, or scroll through your phone, remember the people who came before us, living, loving, and striving in a world without modern comforts, but rich in its own ways. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of first century life would you find most challenging or most fascinating? Let us know.